Welcome to Premier 7. I am your host, Ryan Nelson. As you can see here, the lion of strength, power, and veracity is up on the screen. I am behind the scenes today based on the fact that there's a need to be. So my unattractive face is not up on the screen for today. That was just a small joke. But I had to revisit my home of foundation, StreamYard, the yard of all yards. Today I will be doing a presentation in regards to some signings that Manchester United should look out for to help them to be EPL title challengers next season. And here's the topic. 5 convincible signings Manchester United should make to contend for EPL title 2023-2024 by way of a player profile. So we all know that this season it's just a few more games to play and the Premier League will be closed. And Manchester United, they need to perform to keep themselves in that good position of finishing in the top four. Because without the top four, there will be no Champions League, and these players for which I'm going to mention could be off the list for United. Of course, Manchester United under the management of Erik Ten Hag has shown signs of brilliance this season, but on the other hand, there are moments of horrendous performances on the pitch, and that can be a case for which heavy, congested fixtures and players that are said to have the potential to start, despite the squad depth for which Manchester United doesn't have, these players are not up to par to wear the badge of Manchester United. I believe that this summer, Manchester United needs to clear out at least 5 of these possible starters and replace them with quality signings. Because it doesn't make sense you have a squad full of players that aren't good enough. For instance, you have a specific player who can play in at least 3 positions, but he doesn't have the quality to play in any of those positions properly. So you have to replace him with someone who is way beyond that player. This is a general talk, right? And for the general discussion, I'm just sharing my say here because Manchester United this season is a surprise, despite the poor start to the season, losing out to Brighton and Brentford. Early days for Ten Hag and the signings, like for instance Lisandro Martinez. Persons were pointing fingers on him, saying that he's not good enough. And time shows changes, and both Ten Hag and Lisandro Martinez have been a revolution for Manchester United. There are more ups for the club than downs. The biggest down for Manchester United is that the Glazers are still in charge. And on Friday, this day, the 28th of April 2023, Qatar versus Sejim. I guess today should be the last day for the bids to be submitted, and hopefully the best suitable buyer will be there to save Manchester United, not only for next season but beyond. Before I go into the players, the old players and the new players, I want to say that Sir Jim Radcliffe is like the enemies of the fans now because there was a story that was being mentioned that he more so would like to keep the Glazers a part of the club, whereas Al Thani, the Qatar person who want to take over the club by 100%, and more than likely that is a possible options that fans would love to see. Yes, Manchester United is at fourth in the Premier League table, And many persons already know that, so there's no need to really go in depth about that. But with the hopes of having that chance to be a bit more convincing by scoring a lot more goals. To compare Manchester United with the teams in the top four, the goal difference for Manchester United is not convincing. So they're conceding goals and not being able to close off games. Similar to the game yesterday that they played against Spurs. Jadon Sancho and Marcus Rashford scored in the first half of the game, and then in the second half, Spurs showed what they can do, having lost to Newcastle 6-1. Goals from Pedro Porro, for which I spoke about on my channel, scored, and the man that wasn't really in the form, Human Son, one of the best players in Spurs history, scored as well. So things needs to be changed for Manchester United, and as I've said before, Manchester United need five convincible signings that could make them EPL contenders for next season. We all know though that Arsenal to me will miss out on the Premier League title, and I spoke about Arsenal in the last video prior to this one. And before that video I spoke about William Saliba's absence. His absence to me restrict or prevented Arsenal from having a better chance because the Arsenal fans on AFTV even mentioned that Rob Holding isn't the best centre back. And, 3 games in a row, Arsenal drew, and that doesn't look good against Liverpool and West Ham, having led 2 goals to nil. The game ended up drawing 2-2 in those 2 games, and Southampton game was a 3-3 draw. But Arsenal had to come from behind. But the absence of William Saliba could have helped them to be a bit more competitive and possibly could have won those games to sit above Manchester City more convincingly. But now let's go into details. I want to speak about first and foremost the old players to be sold. Maguire, Wan-Bissaka, McTominay, Pellistri, and Martial. Now Harry Maguire is the captain of Manchester United, right? And he came from Leicester, whereas he was rated very highly. He was compared to Van Dijk. Not to say that he was the same type of player, but he was compared to Van Dijk, having played very well as a centre back. He even scored against Manchester United in his days at Leicester City. But I'm not sure if it's because of his injuries that he picked up or the immense pressure that is placed on him. His performance is not convincing for Manchester United, and maybe if he was not from England, which he plays very well for, and for instance he came from like a Portugal or France or any other country outside of England, he would have received many sticks. Maguire is a meme person because every time persons want to look on Harry Maguire at Manchester United after his first season, he looks horrendous as a player. And I don't want to, point any fingers at Maguire saying that he's shit and those things because Manchester United fans would do such, and not only them, but based on the fact that Harry Maguire can be compared to even persons who can play scrimmage football, they would be saying that they're better than Harry Maguire. So Harry Maguire is a captain, not convincing, even though Ten Hag speak about him as a person who's a leader. But today in the press conference, he mentioned that Bruno Fernandes is his captain, and he was injured and showed guts to play against Spurs. So Harry Maguire is off the list. He's the first one on the list, and I would say that I would sell Harry Maguire for at least 50 million pounds. Reason being, he's on 180 grand a week, somewhere there for Manchester United based on his wages. And he was purchased for more than 60 million, about 80 million pounds. So a player like this needs to be shifted and go to a club like, I would say, like an Everton or a West Ham. Maybe he can go back to Leicester City if they want to purchase him back. You never know. But Harry Maguire should be sold. And I'm going to speak about the replacement when I touch on the point when it relates to the new players to purchase. Next on the list, Wan-Bissaka, the Spider-Man of Manchester United. I like Wan-Bissaka, but I have a problem with Wan-Bissaka. Before I speak about the problem with Wan-Bissaka, he really and truly saved his career after the World Cup. Dalot was the main man, but Wan-Bissaka is known, even given credit by James Madison and other persons like myself, as one of the best, if not the best player when it comes on to a 1v1 situation. He's very good at that. Phenomenal player. Where the issue is with Wan-Bissaka is when it comes on to decision making. He's a player that likes to turn back with the ball. I saw his mistake against Spurs yesterday on the 27th of April this year, 2023. He loves to turn back, and that is not good for a right back. If you look on Kieran Trippier, he's a player who can bomb forward and make delightful crosses for players like Wilson and even Joe Linton, who is not a striker, but they can score goals by way of his assistance. Wan-Bissaka is a good delivery player of the ball by way of crosses. Sometimes, if Manchester United doesn't have the quality of a Casemiro or Eriksen or Bruno Fernandes to switch the play from the midfield, then Manchester United would be outside of the top seven. You understand? Because guess what? The back line should be better in terms of distribution. I'm not speaking about De Gea as a main point to start. The centre backs and the right back and left back. Wan-Bissaka, I never see him do a long ball like a diagonal cross to say Rashford, or when Bruno is going forward or Eriksen, he do a long cross to them. I never seen him do something like that, and that is a problem. Going forward as well, he hardly make the chance creative for strikers or even wingers or even midfield players who are coming forward to score goals. So that is my issue with Wan-Bissaka. He's not good in terms of decision making whenever it comes on to delivery. And even defensively as well. He's a player who normally likes to tuck in as if he's a centre back, leaving the wingers from the opposing team to have a chance to score. I'm not sure if he played against Atletico Madrid in the Champions League when Joao Felix scored a goal. But I think if that was the case for which he played, he was one of those issues by tucking in as a centre back and he's a right back, causing a goal to be scored because he's not aware of his position. But this season he has been better after the World Cup. He made himself available many times for Ten Hag and he's highly praised. Wan-Bissaka wasn't purchased for 50 million really. If that was his price tag, then his value is a bit devalued now. And I would sell Wan-Bissaka for about 35 million pounds. Right? 35 million pounds for Wan-Bissaka. So Wan-Bissaka plus Harry Maguire would be 85 million pounds. Someone is making there. Now, the overrated midfield player for which I would love Manchester United to sell is McTominay. It is not good when a coach give you that chance to play numerous positions and you're not convincing. Mourinho, Solskjaer are two coaches for which they highly rate McTominay. But on the pitch, not behind the scenes, he's not a player that shows the quality of a good footballer. Maybe for Scotland, in the games that he played for which he scored 2 goals, one of those games was against Spain. That doesn't prove his worth in a Manchester United team. Scott McTominay is a disastrous player, based on my opinion. And this is a channel for which persons can oppose or share their views. McTominay is not a player that Manchester United should even think about keeping. Send him to Newcastle or other teams. Even Wan-Bissaka can go to Everton or back to a Crystal Palace. But I was saying McTominay can go to a Newcastle. Yeah, because, maybe he wouldn't even start, but Newcastle was the latest team for which was saying that McTominay was on their radar. McTominay's issue is that he's not good defensively. He's not good attacking wise lately, or many persons would be saying not even lately, earlier than lately. He given that chance to play attacking by Ten Hag. He's not convincing when he plays a number 10. And box to box, I see a few instances under the management of Ragnick, whereas he scored a few goals like that. Because to me, he's good at the edge of the box with that one time shot. But he's a midfield player who is said to be box to box and even playing as a DM player at time, but he's not a quality player. And I would sell McTominay, who is a player from the youth academy, for at least £25 million. I would sell McTominay for. Next player on the list, Pelistri. There's nothing much to even speak about Pelistri. A player who hardly get games, a player who have the potential, a player who was sent on loan at Alves in La Liga, come back to Manchester, play a few games. The last game I can remember he played was against Real Betis in the Europa League, and he showed signs of finesse. But then again, Ten Hag, I don't say Ten Hag doesn't like him, but he's not the main. He's hardly given chance to even play on the pitch for Ten Hag. Pelistri doesn't have much issues as a player to me, but I believe that he needs to play football. He can be sent to a championship team or a La Liga team, Getafe, Sunderland, the Premiership. A lot of options are there. In the Premier League, does he fit in the Premier League? Maybe a Leeds, because that is where Daniel James went. Pelistri is very young, and if he cannot be developed under Ten Hag, then there must be a coach that can help him to develop once he have the quality, because not all quality is being revealed under good managers. For instance, Kevin De Bruyne and Mohamed Salah when they were at Chelsea. Mourinho was the manager at that time, but they had to be sold. I think Salah was sold to Roma, and De Bruyne was sent to Wolfsburg, and they progressed. Salah is one of the best players, if not the best player for Liverpool, and Kevin De Bruyne is the best midfielder of all time for Manchester City. So that is what I'm saying about Pelistri. He may not be given that chance to show his glimmering style to convince Ten Hag, but there's a ray of hope for him under the management of a harder coach. I'm not sure how much he was even purchased for by Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Not given out of games, I would sell him for at least £10 million. Yeah, because he's not really playing games, so why giving him that big price tag? Sell him to a club. And before I touch up on the other player, I just want to say Premier 7 is doing some good work. Currently, 151 subscribers. So continue to watch, like, comment, share, and subscribe to this amazing platform for news and information about the top 7 teams in the Premier League. Yeah. Now moving away from that, back to the last player, you can see that Martial is the next player on the list. Injury-prone FC, Gareth Bale family, Eden Hazard family. The similarity between those two names mentioned to Martial is that they're quality players. Martial is a quality player, but he's inconsistent when he's not injured, but he shows a lot of possibility to score goals and to connect plays and to create uniqueness and team chemistry whenever he plays for Manchester United. He is at Manchester United for more than 4 years. I'm sure about that because he was purchased by Van Gaal from Monaco. Martial is a player for which I rate, and I speak about him before. But this season was his season to show his class because he was sent on loan last season to Sevilla. He wasn't convincing them sending back to Manchester United. And when he came back, he played in the preseason games. He was electric alongside Rashford and Sancho as a main man. Martial as a number 9 was showing glimpse of hope for Ten Hag. Ten Hag loves Martial. He highly rates him, but injuries, the evaluation of price tag shows that Martial isn't the man. And even though Vogt is not here, he is surely not the man for Manchester United. I am going to even show you my formation with these players, where they normally would start, and even if they don't start, where's their best position. But I'm going to leave that for the end of the video because I'm going to do old versus new Manchester United 11. So, Martial, he was purchased at a good price value back in the days, but no, the injuries, the inconsistency ruined his career at the age of 27. Martial should be sold for £50 million. And maybe some persons would say 20 million. So let me use £20 million for Martial. Martial can be sent to a team of his preference. I'm not even sure where he should go because many teams don't want an injured player, but he have the potential to go back to France. Maybe play for Marseille, like Bay and Sanchez as a striker. Well, he could go to the Bundesliga and play for Wolfsburg. Yeah, one of those teams. So let me add up the valuation for these players. So Maguire, £50 million. Wan-Bissaka, £35 million. McTominay, £25 million. Well, McTominay, let me say 20 million. I really want to get rid of these players for Erik Ten Hag. So McTominay, £20 million. Pallister, £10 million. Martial, £20 million. That is £135 million to spend. 135 million is a lot of money to even sign at least 2 quality players, even 3. But off the list goes Maguire, Wan-Bissaka, McTominay, Pelistri, and of course Martial. Now I'm going to speak about new players to purchase: Kim Min-jae, Frimpong, De Jong, Kudus, and Kane. Remember, the topic was 5 convincible signings Manchester United should make to contend for EPL title next season by of a player profile. First one on the list is Kim Min-jae. Now, for him, you can see that he is valued at 50 million euros, not pounds. So why am I valuing Harry Maguire for so much? Because Harry Maguire costs 80 million. So Kim Min-jae, he's a player who plays centre back for South Korea, 26 years old, right? 30 appearances in Serie A this season, 2 goals, 2 assists. So his starting 11 percentage and minutes would be in the 90s. Goal participation is a centre back, so not much, but 6%. With Kim Min-jae can play both position as a centre back, whether it's the right-handed centre back or the left-handed centre back, is top class. Napoli is hard to negotiate with, so that is going to be an issue for Manchester United. But for Kim Min-jae, he joined the club in 2022, right? In the month of July. Contract expires in 2025, 2 years from now in June. But Kim Min-jae is a player that Manchester United should look to sign. And I know my reason. Not because he's playing well in the Champions League, but because of what he brings to the table as a centre-back. Remember, he plays 30 games so far in Serie A, and Napoli is top of the league. His playing position as a centre-back. Look at his ratings, 7.09. That is very high for a centre-back. He is top class. And for his strength, passing, Harry Maguire is a good pass off the ball, but when it comes on to passing the ball more convincingly with some more pace and without slowing down the game, Kim Min-jae is good at that. Erik Ten Hag likes to play higher line. So with Kim Min Jae, ball interception wouldn't be an issue for him because he, looking on his clips on YouTube or on other sites, he have that ability to control the game and to get back very well whenever there's a high line. And if he's behind a player, he have the pace to catch that player before that player catch the ball. So his ball interception is strong, just as his passing. Tackling, I spoke about the ability to take the ball from the opposition player. That is Kim Min Jae. Concentration, that is strong as well. Weakness, when you see a player has no significant weakness, then it is a convincible player to purchase. And Manchester United needs to finish in the top four so to get Kim Min Jae. Kim Min Jae is young, 26. So why would Ten Hag ignore to purchase Kim Min Jae? And he doesn't. He wants to purchase Kim Min Jae. I was thinking about Alex Disasi, but Disasi, even though he's younger than Kim Min Jae is a higher profile player. So I would go for Kim Min Jae. So for this player, he is highly rated in the 90 percentile as it relates to his statistics for his XAG, 90 percentile. As you can see, for aerial duels down here, for which he won as a defender, 88. So it's very close to the 90 percentile. It is green for this player. Progressive carrier, 88%. Progressive passer, 88%. Completion with the pass, 88%. And 97% for pass attempt. For this man, under a good manager at Napoli, who plays convincing attacking football, sometimes position football, he can come to Manchester United and become a legend. And I don't want to really give him that much boost or talk about him as if he's God, because no one is God. But I don't want to overrate any player. But Kim Min Jae isn't overrated. But Ten Hag needs a player like him who can partner with Lisandro Martinez to play out from the back if De Gea isn't that player. And based on the United stands, hates De Gea. But we're not the United stands. We're Premier 7. So those information share about Kim Min Jae would convince anyone to sign him. Remember, he's 26. And, coaches like Ten Hag, who is in his first season at Manchester United, needs a Kim Min Jae to kick things off next season from the centre-back position. Because Rafael Varane is injured out until May. Maybe he's injury prone. I need to see Rafael Varane playing some more games for Manchester United. Whenever you have a Kim Min Jae in your squad, then Varane can get rest because based on the congested Premier League fixture, Manchester United need a player who can really show that he can start in every game, right? And Kim Min Jae is that player who I believe have the potential to do such. But let's move over to another player, Jeremy Frimpong. So Frimpong, he is at Bayern Leverkusen. Leon Bailey and Kai Havertz can speak highly about such club. Kim Min Jae is a player who won a few trophies, and so has Frimpong. That is good, because when you have winners in your club, in your team to play some good football, then you have to bring in players like Frimpong, who is 22 years old, valued at 35 million euros. He's very young, but he's a player that plays a lot of games. He's a right back. 29 appearances for his club, Bayer Leverkusen, in the Bundesliga this season. 8 goals, 6 assists. That is the reason why I need for Ten Hag or the new owners. Hopefully it is going to be Al-Thani because he's a savior, whereas Radcliffe seems to be the enemy. Needs to sign Jeremy Frimpong because of the ability to score goals, for which Wan-Bissaka is not doing, and to make assists. Maybe Wan-Bissaka is better at 1v1, but when I go on the percentiles, I will speak more on that. So far for Frimpong, 93% starting 11, 87 minutes. and his goal participation as a right back is what I'm speaking about. 26%. And I'm sure that Wan-Bissaka goal participation is about like say 10%. These things shows me that he's a player who's not injury prone for one. He's a player that can convince the coach to even put him on if Dalot start or if he start above Dalot, the game can be closed off. The winning percentage for Ten Hag should go up by way of these players. Not a bad start for Ten Hag, and with Frimpong added to Kim Min Jae, that would be very beneficial. So as you're seeing here, he can play even at left back. He can play even as a right midfielder, but his main position is a right back. Joined in 2021, and same like Kim Min Jae, his contract expires in 2025 in June on the 30th. Leverkusen isn't that hard to negotiate with, and the players from Netherlands. So Ten Hag loves his Netherlands players. He almost bring the wall of Ajax to Manchester, but there was a stoppage. But Frimpong is the player for which Manchester United needs. Is a player for which have high ratings. Look at his playing position. At a right back position, 6.54 is young, 22, can improve. But right here, it's more likely like a wing back and a right midfield, 7.47, 7.16. All of this position here for Frimpong is convincing. Now for his strength, very strong as a dribbler. Wan-Bissaka can dribble, but how well can he dribble? Like Frimpong, I don't think he is better. Key passes. As a progressive player, he's better than Wan-Bissaka. Defensive contribution, strong. The weakness, holding on to the ball. He's not a player who likes to even hold on to the ball. But if he does, remember his dribbling is very strong. Errol Dewes is short, but you have Kim Min Jae coming in to play alongside like sometimes a Varane, a Casemiro, and the other player which is there and the place which I'm going to bring in. So forget about that part. But he's very good in terms of scoring goals, remember. So the Errol Dewes is more than likely from a set piece. Crossing the ball, he's weak, but he can work on that. Finishing, that is up for debate. And tackling, maybe the tackling is not really up for debate because he's more so attacking. But guess what? Ten Hag will make Frimpong 2.0 alongside the other coaches. Now, this is his attacking side. 90 percentile he ranks everywhere. Shot creation, 90 percentile. Assist, 90 percentile. Shots per 90 percentile. But his weakness, as what we mentioned before, aerial duels. He doesn't need to do any aerial duels really. Clearance can work on. He's 22, so I'm defending him here, blocking the ball. If Manchester United players like Frimpong and Dalot go forward, Lisandro Martin is very good coming back, even Varane, and Kim Min Jae is a no-brainer. So forget about that part. So this player is a 90 percentile player attacking wise, needs to work on his weaknesses. But good coaching at Manchester United with these players who, like Frimpong and Kim Min Jae, which I mentioned, are trophy winning players. I have 85 million euros for these two players, right? Now, I want to speak about the problematic player that Manchester United almost spent the entire summer trying to get. He remain at the Catalans in Barcelona. And you all know what I'm speaking about. Frankie de Jong. Hopefully this season, Manchester United can get this player in. 60 million euros for the man from Netherlands who plays several games from Barcelona. He is very young at 25, but he have height. So as a central midfielder who is a register player to me, who can take the ball from the back line and go forward, score a goal as well with his head to assist Frimpong, which the weakness showed. De Jong is a creator. That is something for which everyone knows. Now, 26 games in La Liga, 2 goals, 1 assist for a player who has so much quality. But looking on his starting 11, 71%, 69 minutes, 5 goal participation. He's not progressing at Barcelona. Remember, he had a start for which his form wasn't really the problem, but he was a player looking to be sold to make some money. But Barcelona wants to keep this man because of what he can do, and they're going to win La Liga. Look at how many trophies he won. He won with Ajax and he won with, with Barcelona, right? So this man, right here is his main position as a central midfield player, but at times he can play at a defensive midfielder. I saw him play in the preseason game as a centre back and he was absolutely fantastic. Frankie de Jong joined in 2019. His contract expires in 2026 in June. That is the normal month for contracts to be expired. But Frankie de Jong, even though he's not showing much with his stats here based on goals and assists, if you check out who is one of the top players as a midfield player, Frankie de Jong would come up. He will be like an addition to Manchester United's team as a starter to replace Eriksen, but to put Eriksen on the bench. But he will replace Scott McTominay, right? Now, Frankie de Jong, convincing so far, not so much with the stats. Well, that doesn't only show what a player can do. A player is far more than that when you think about, you know, the stats. Right here, remember, playing position 6.88, 7.18. Now that should convince you that he's a player who have the ability to even surpass those ratings. For a player to have 6.88 and 7.18 as a rating, playing so many games, it shows that he's good, right? And for his characteristics, true balls, very strong, dribbling very strong, passing strong, concentration strong. Remember, Manchester United is a team that has weak mentality players over the years up to now. And I don't want to throw any stone at any players, but I think the stone has hit several players which I mentioned before, for which I want to have them out of the club. Frankie de Jong is a winner, and he is the best fit beside Casemiro. And not only me would say that, but other persons would. His weak, however, is saying that tackling is weak. It did not say very weak, it said weak. And he can improve because he's very good in terms of his concentration. And he doesn't like to lose. He may not display that behavior like Gavi, but he have what it takes to do such. I was thinking about a Jude Bellingham, but news said that Jude Bellingham is more so looking forward to go to Real Madrid. Maybe even replace Gundogan at Man City. You never know. There's still more days left before the transfer window begins. But I'm looking on the player's profile. But no need to speak about Bellingham. I think De Jong is a better option. And the scouting report shows that Frankie de Jong have that ability to do what others cannot do. He's very loose as a player. I'm telling you that. He's very loose. He's hard to kick down or take the ball away from. And that is what Frankie de Jong is good at. Looking at his passing attempt and his passing completion, progressive passer, progressive carrier, successful take on, almost everything is in the 90 percentile, except from the successful take on that is 88, two away from 90 percentile. He's a midfielder. He's a creator of the ball because his pass completion shows that. He's very good in terms of making space or wriggling out of difficult position or spots. So he will help Manchester United to be a bit more progressive in terms of going forward and even having balance in the midfield because he can drop back. Or if he's not going to drop back, then Casemiro can drop back and he will progress with the ball. He's stronger than Eriksen, he's younger than Eriksen, and he have that profile of becoming better than Eriksen. Maybe not with the ball distribution, but you never know. He's still very young at 26. Based on the percentiles, that display that he's a player for which you want to have in your midfield. And if Frankie de Jong can give you 90 minutes in several games, then Eriksen can play in other games. Two more players to go. And again, currently have 151 subscribers. Premier 7 is making progress. Continue to watch, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Right? So the other player on my list would be Kudos. 22 years old, like Frimpong, valued at 30 million euros. And he's from Ghana as an attacking midfield player. So that is his main position. And sometimes he can even play as an 8. 26 appearances, 11 goals, and 2 assists. Right? And that shows that this guy, even though he doesn't play in every game, he's balanced in terms of starting 11 for minutes as well. and 16% goal participation. And look at this. He can play as a number 9, he can play as a right winger or a right midfield, but more so a right winger, but his main position is an attacking midfield player. So Bruno Fernandes, when the tank needs to be rested or refueled, you can put on kudos to do something. And his contract even is expired in 2025, having joined Ajax in 2020. But Ajax isn't a club for which I think Ten Hag would want to destroy this season by taking away all of the players, but even to get a kudos would be a win for Erik. No man, this player plays everywhere on the pitch. More so central, but on the right hand side, more so as well. But right here, 8.42 as a right midfield player right there. 8.58. No, this guy is ridiculous. He's very good. Ten Hag needs to sign him, and you can look on the other figures and decide if Manchester United should sign him. He may have his weaknesses, and I'm going to speak about that, but those ratings are very highly rated. Dribbling very strong, finishing very strong, long shots. Fred is a player that received those options several times, but cannot put away the ball in the back of the net. McTominay injured at times, play more defensive at times as well, not convincing. He's strong in terms of passing the ball as well. So with so many players can pass the ball well, then Ten Hag can keep his eye line and break down players with not say counter football like Solskjaer football, but with convincing position-based football and progressive football. And direct free kicks, strong. Bruno, kudos. I won't say Luke Shaw, but those two players and Eriksen as well, Rashford as well, give Ten Hag options to score from direct free kicks. Tackling strong. Manchester United signed kudos alongside Frimpong and Kim Min Jae. And yeah, indeed. But for his weakness, offside awareness, he doesn't have to play as a number 9. He have numerous positions that he can play, as you can see by his playing position. Concentration, very weak, but players do change. 22-year old, again, he's very young, and he have the quality to do so much things. Get kudos as well for 30 million euros. So before I speak about the final player, which is going to be Harry Kane, I want to do some calculations so far to see where my money lies at. And in euros, I made 175 million. So I am having some money here. Now, the final player on the list before I speak about the other key part of the segment is going to be Harry Kane. Harry Kane is a player for which I spoke about when there was news that his price tag is valued at 80 million. And I did a very good video on Harry Kane. You can check that out as well for Harry Kane. But the focus is on this one because Harry Kane is the England captain, a sufferer at Spurs without winning a trophy. Why is Harry Kane sticking around at Spurs? I don't know. Maybe Levy is the person to blame. But Harry Kane needs to fight Levy Norman and has to be signed by Manchester United. I love for them to sign Osimhen, but that high price tag, man. No, sir. Too much money there. And what do you think? But Harry Kane, 33 appearances, 24 goals behind Erling Haaland, and assist of 3. I am not going to say I'm surprised to see 100% for starting 11 and minutes, but he is not recently injured. He's played a lot of games for Spurs. Remember, he played even in the Champions League. And before that, he was not injured prone, but he used to sustain a few injuries. But this season and before, like last season, stop it at that, Harry Kane is in better health, better shape, better form. Normally score more than 20 goals a season, most times for Spurs, only in the English Premier League. Goal participation, 45%. What more do you want to hear about Harry Kane? His contract is expired this year, so his price tag, which is at 150 million euros, needs a drop. The 150 million is right here, right? But up here it shows 90 million euros. So it could be 80 million, maybe 80 million pounds they would even price Harry Kane at. But nevertheless, he joined Spurs from 2011, so that is more than 10 years at the club. Kane is the main poacher right here as a number 9, but he is a goal scorer. Like a ball beater in cricket, he's a goal machine. Very strong finishing, key passes, aerial duels. I spoke about all of those things about Harry Kane. Harry Kane is already known, but he's already a legend at Spurs. So, keep those things in mind. Defensive contribution is his issue, which shows weak, but come on. Harry Kane is the man to sign, right? So let me backtrack a bit and show you the percentile for Mohamed Kudus. I think I haven't showed that information, so I have to show those details. As an African player, he is not bad. Attacking wise, he's in the 90 percentile. As a midfielder, he's in the 90 percentile. Successful take-ons, passing completion, touches, and in the non-penalty XG, 99 percentile, and those things for Kudus. So those are some top-class information shared about that player. So let me just jump to Harry Kane right away. Non-penalty goals, 82 percentile, but per 90 minutes for his shots creation, he's in the 90 percentile there. Shots total, almost 90, 89. Progressive passing, 96. These things are stats, but looking at Harry Kane with the naked eye, he's good by way of carrying the ball. Sometimes he drops even to the right side and make way for other players to progress. So Bruno Fernandes in the midfield could go forward. Ping pong could run around Harry Kane. Harry Kane finds him. So it's making way for other players to score goals. And the percentile show, as I've said before, is progressive passing, 96%. That is very convincing. The most convincing thing about Harry Kane on the FB ref report for Harry Kane is a pass off the ball. That is the reason why he showed his conviction by way of making an assist in the Premier League. And he's playing a lot of games this season. He, even though he make 3 assists, it's not all about the stats. His ability to make the team be uniformed and playing as a club with chemistry, then Harry Kane is a man to go for. Harry Kane is for 90 million euros. And what would I say the total would be? Kim Min-jae, 50 million. Frimpong, 35 million. De Jong, 60 million. Kudus, 30 million. And Harry Kane, 90 million. All in euros. That is 265. So 265 million euros in pound. Right? How much will that be? That would be about 233. So 233 minus 135. I would just need about 98 million pound additionally to, purchase these players. But surely sold players that I know will not be in Manchester United again. Like, Vout doesn't have any price valuation. He's going back. But McTominay, I spoke about him. But Van der Beek, off the list. Brandon Williams off the list. Trent Zoué off the list. Who else I can mention before I decide to go into the other segment? I think I give you about 4 players. That could convince you. Phil Jones. He doesn't have a value. And you know more. Elanga needs to be sold. So I'm going to speak about my favorite part of the segment. And thank you for sticking around. Old versus new Manchester United. I'm going to use an X to represent those players for which I mentioned that are going to be sold, and a tick for those players that will be purchased. The gear in goal with Heaton as a backup, but I'm going to focus on where Varane is. Varane is going to be the main starter for Manchester United if he wasn't injured this season. So Maguire will be a backup. Him, Maguire out. So I would have Lindelof, Martinez, and Varane. All right, so far. Wan-Bissaka, back up to Dalot. Sometimes he start, but he's going to be sold. Luke Shaw Malacia is okay. In the midfield, Casemiro, McTominay is out. Fred is left. And Eriksen, Fred, Sabitzer. I'm going to speak about who is going to come in. Don't forget that. Right wing, Anthony. Pelistri out right here. These are the X's. Bruno Fernandes and Sabitzer okay. Rashford, Garnacho, Sancho. Martial out. With about 5 players out from 23 will give you about 18 and 19 from 24. So that is a lot. That is a lot of players. And 5 will replace them. So let me go to the replacements. Now, this is going to be the new Manchester United, right? 11. Same keeper, but the back line, right back, Dalot starting Frimpong as a backup, or he could start at times. Kim Min Jae, I would start him above Lindelof because Martinez and Varane can activate the left hand side. And Luke Shaw Malacia retains the left back. Casemiro, Fred as a backup. Maybe persons would say Fred needs to go, but McTominay is the one I chose to go out. Now, right here, Frankie de Jong, he's a tick. Eriksen Sabitzer can play at times. Anthony, bringing back Ahmad Diallo, excellent player for Sunderland this season at the Championship on loan. Fernandes, Kudus can play as well as a number 10. And Sabitzer. Rashford, Garnacho, Sancho. As you can see here, Kudus and Kane. I got rid of Martial and Weghorst. So that is going to be my new Manchester United. What is your say? The squad will be 23 or 24 with these new signings. This is just what I have to say. So it's time to go. And as I've said before, I have 151 subscribers. So continue to watch, like, comment, share, and subscribe to Premier 7 for more news and information about the top 7 teams in the Premier League. Take care and goodbye for now.